to this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show and podcast. I'm your host, Christine Innes. Now, I am delighted to have this a beautiful soul joining me. Ioanna, thank you for being here, beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much, Christine, for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
I'm really excited about where today's conversation is going to take us because I don't know. I think there's so much been happening. And I think as we get towards the end of the year, I don't know if you feel the same, that everyone sort of starts thinking, oh, am I on the right pathway? Am I need to do this? Like there's a whole heap of different questions that starts coming up because we haven't hit our goals either with it. So before I get carried away, as most people on this show know that I am going to pause for a moment and I'm going to get you to introduce yourself, beautiful.
Thank you so much, Christine, and welcome to all the listeners and viewers of your gorgeous podcast and TV show. As Christine said, I'm Ioanna Serpanos. I'm based in Melbourne. I'm actually a medium and teacher of mediumship and mentor of mediumship. And I absolutely love doing that. I'm also an author of a book and a companion journal that goes with it, which is on mediumship development called Giving Spirit a Voice. And I've developed an online beautiful community and online mediumship school so anyone can learn around the world. But I wasn't always a medium. I actually have an engineering degree and I've come from the corporate world. I spent a good 15, 16 years in corporate, right up to very senior executive management. So I combine science with spirituality, which I just love.
Oh, I love that so much. What was the journey literally like for you? Because I think, and not that I do like the medium stuff, but like to discover my own spirituality, I didn't have the space for it in the corporate world. But as I left, that opened up. But what was that like for you? Obviously, did you experience that when you were in corporate?
I did actually, because at the time when I started corporate, I didn't really know that I had the mediumship ability. I was always interested in spirituality. Like you, corporate can become very consuming of our time, our headspace. You know, we are in our heads, we're locked in it. And I found upon reflection when I looked back after I'd left corporate that I kind of went, oh, I actually was there, and it was there in many different ways. For example, I would blurt things out, like, in a meeting, and it would be like the hidden agenda. Everyone's here to talk about this, and then I would seem to know intuitively like what was really the hidden agenda. Or people would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you brought that to the table. That's exactly where we wanted this to go. And so I knew I was following my intuition. But one example I want to share, which was just hilarious. I remembered there was one meeting that I finished and a colleague of mine was packing up the gear ready to, move on to the next meeting of the day. And I just out of my mouth blurted, oh, how are you? And I'm just going to, make up a name. Let's say Jane. How are you and Jane going? And he sort of started and he looked at me. He's like, what? No, there's nothing going on with me and Jane. And I was like, I'm sure you told me. I'm sure there was. And he's like, no, all straight-laced and thinking, oh my God, and swore black and blue. And in my head, I was like, I'm sure he told me that they were seeing each other. So he denied. And it was about 3 months later, it came out that he was indeed seeing this other employee in a different section of the company, and it was all actually true. So things like that were happening where it just came to me and I couldn't say where it came from. And in my head, to make it logical, I was like, I'm sure you've told me, but I was actually receiving that in a different capacity. So yeah, very interesting.
I love it. How has the corporate world helped you with running the business?
Yeah, very much so. It's given me the structure. I was, I worked as an engineer, obviously, originally, but then my last role, I was a general manager for a whole Australian sales division. So there was employees, budgets, also project budgets that I had to deal with. So I think the structure of the corporate world and the way that we go about thinking and working out problems, right, and working with resources. That was, for me, is something that I do excel in. And it has fed over into my business because I actually regularly mentor businesses and business owners just from the intuitive hat, but I'm able to bring all the practical skill sets in. So I'm in quite a unique position in that regard. And also my family, so I grew up in a family of business owners. So my parents were business owners. So from a very young age, I was able to really have a look at what it means to run a business. You know, it looks glamorous on the surface, doesn't it? But there's all the behind the scenes things that you have to do. And it doesn't matter if you're a director and owner and founder of your business, but you're also the toilet cleaner and the stationery order and, you know, all those other things that are not as glamorous. So I think for me, I've always had a keen interest in business. I've understood it intrinsically. I was able to be trained in it in processes like measuring our goals, setting KPIs, understanding what we're looking to achieve, and then breaking that down, looking at where is my, you know, where the resources best spent, money, time. It's that old chestnut that comes out for all people. So I do feel those skill sets really served me very well. And I've been running my own business now for 20 plus years. And, you know, it's just, I sustain myself. You know, I've bought property and I've moved on in life through this business here, and I'm always growing it. So I feel bringing those skill sets in has made a big impact.
I love that you touch on that, because I think there's a misconception out there that people who have a spirituality sort of based business, like whatever aspect it is that you're not going to make money.
Yes.
And we talk about energy exchange, and this was a hard concept that I even struggled with for the first couple of years of my business, going, oh, well, I'll do this for you, you do that for me. But then I got caught out so many times, like I would deliver, but the other person was. So now the main currency I accept is the financial currency of it.
And be okay with that too, Christine, because a lot of people in our industry say, oh, you know, I always get if she was a real, you know, psychic or medium, she wouldn't charge. And, you know, it's one of those, it's almost an embarrassment. They feel like spirituality is some noble higher order thing that, you know, only energy exchange works. And that is not the case. And I do feel you've hit it on the head, because you know, when we come from the corporate background, the thing that I've noticed is the level of professionalism that comes to the table. And we are obviously always high achievers because we've been trained in a goal-driven environment. And I approach my spiritual journey in the same way. So I know I give 110%. That level of professionalism is always there, the level of continuous improvement and investment in skill sets. So last year, in fact, a year ago, I achieved an internationally recognised award, the CSNU award, which recognises my mediumship to international level. And I went to the UK 4 times to, you know, sit in front of a board and be examined on that and be tested on that. And, you know, so for me, all that rolls into it. And if I'm working at that standard, then I expect to be compensated at the level of standard that I'm at. And that is, you know, we live in a monetary society. And why it's easy, as you say, to, you know, at the beginning, trade your skill set or your time against someone else's. I discourage that when I mentor my students. I always say, know your worth, know your value, and be okay to accept, you know, learn to accept the monetary exchange for your time and your service.
Yeah, I think the learning to receive has been, even now, like 5 years into business, and I still sometimes struggle. I had a friend who was also a client, and she goes, oh yeah, I'm going to take this. I'm like, I messaged her the other day and I caught myself out. I'm going, are you sure? Like, and I'm like going, what are you doing? Like, you know, like, and it's really interesting because I think like sometimes, you know, we're high achievers, but also we're very giving people. Like we really just want to help people as well. And there is that sort of understanding it's business. And I think sometimes having that corporate background has helped in it. And I think like from where you're coming from, I mean, having those higher roles and knowing like, you know, projects, like a business is a project plan, you know, having staff, everything like that definitely helped with it all as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. when clients come to you, like, and you know, let's just say like brand new clients coming to you, what would be one of the most, you know, given piece of advice that you would say to nearly every single person?
Mm. So if I was mentoring, and that's my passion, so to mentor and grow, whether I'm growing you spiritually on your own journey or training you to be a medium, the first piece of advice I always give is to trust your instincts. Now, we can call them intuition, we can call them psychic abilities. It doesn't matter what the word is. At the end of the day, it's that intrinsic part of you. And, you know, if I put the science hat on, the quantum field that we exist in. But if I take the science hat off and I call it the spirit world, you know, if I use that language, it's to trust your guidance, your GPS, if you like, around it. And what happens is everybody comes into it with distrust. So my, you know, they will say, oh, I got this, but then I talked myself out of it. Or I thought that, but then I wasn't sure. And there's always the but. What if I got it wrong? So I always challenge them and say, what if you got it right?
Yes.
So change the mindset. And if you got it right, let spirit prove to you that you've actually got it wrong. And you're very rarely wrong. And it shifts from a place of pushing to get this intuition to flowing. And when you can flow and you just assume you're right, because at the end of the day, the person sitting opposite you is going to say no. And I always say, be okay with no, because no for me stands for new opportunity to get clarity.
Oh, I
And
love that.
yeah, new opportunity. Because often when we are learning the language of intuition and the language of mediumship, we still have to get our symbology right. And as we're learning that, you know, if we don't quite get it right, it means we haven't interpreted it correctly. Not that spirit's got it wrong. They don't, they know who they are. They know what they're going to tell you. Just means we haven't quite been that, you know, that interpretation. So then we go back and say, right, I didn't quite get that right. Give me something else that's going to allow me to clarify that so that I know in future when I get this, it's going to mean that. And that's what I always say to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I think, you know, a lot of the times, especially like anybody going into business, the rejection side of things is so profound. And but how you've reframed that, I'm gonna steal that if that's okay, because I love it so much. I love it so much. So one thing I would love to, you know, if you could just give somebody a piece of advice, obviously coming from corporate and going into business, what would have been the little pep talk that you would have given yourself, from what you know now, like back then?
Yeah. The pep talk that I would give myself now is be okay to spend money on expertise, and you don't have to do it all yourself. Be okay to also invest in a mentor, you know, who is in alignment with you. I think it's really important as well, that you can follow and that you can receive information from. At the beginning, I was self-taught. I, you know, managed to do it all. And there came a point where I thought, I'm really, you know, struggling to understand all the skill sets of running a business. It is slightly different from corporate, as we know, because there's cash flow to consider and all the other, you know, legalities and, you know, compliance and all that type of thing. And so as I made that decision, because remember at the beginning, we're always going, oh, it's going to cost me, you know, however many dollars to have a logo. I'll just whip one up here and I'll just use this temporarily. So my mentor always said, you know, continue as you, or start as you mean to finish. That essentially was her word, start as you mean to finish. And I think she's right, because when you invest in you and therefore you free up your time to do what you know best and just get the expertise from the other people, there's always a tiered set of services. You'll find the right set of services for the amount of dollars that you've got to spend in that moment. And then the next piece of advice would be to invest in yourself so that you become less about working in the business. Now, when we're service-based, I'm service-based, of course, there is a certain component of my time that is, it's one-on-one, it has to be. And I like that. I actually like that bit. But a lot of my work now is larger workshops. Sometimes they're small as well. And I love the intimacy. And there's the online. So you're reachable. And I've had to invest in myself and in technology and in services to be able to do that. And I always ask the question, you know, it's that old, where's the biggest bang for my buck? If I'm spending this, what am I going to get for it? And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, I love that so much. And look, I think, you know, anybody who is obviously going through that, like, this piece of advice is golden, because yeah, you know, it's not just about investing in the business, it's also investing in yourself. And I think if you don't have both, sometimes your business gets further away or can go up, or sometimes you can as well, and you don't know how to catch one another. And it's a catchy game, like I always say, like, is it tag your ear? Okay, now who's up next? Is me or the business? So I love all that. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your gifts with us today. I would love to have you come back, and I think we could dive even more into, you know, so many different topics. But thank you so much for being here today and sharing your gifts. We're going to pop all the details of where people can reach out to you. But before you go, I just want to ask you 5 random questions that we're asking all of our guests, just a sort of bit of fun, just so we get to know you on a personal level. The first question is, in the morning, are you a tea or a coffee girl?
Definitely a tea girl.
Right. I love that. I'm a coffee girl. Even my dog knows not to talk to me unless I've had a coffee. So yeah, no, I love it. I love it. If you get some spare time, would you prefer to curl up and read a book or watch a movie?
Definitely a book reader. I love to read.
Love it. I love that. And if you are going to your dream destination, would you prefer to travel by boat or by plane?
Plane.
Yeah. Yeah. I get there quicker. I'm not much of a good flyer, but I get there quicker. I like that. So yeah. If you were to have a dinner party and you're allowed to invite one special guest, and that special guest is allowed to be from the past or from the present, who would that be?
Well, it would either be, for me, there's two, either Tesla or Nikola Tesla, or Leonardo da Vinci. I'm very fascinated by him because obviously he was an inventor, an engineer, similar to me, but he had that spiritual side too, and the inquiring mind. So absolutely, either of those two would be fascinating.
That'd be amazing. Absolutely, absolutely. And if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Oh, that's a harder one, isn't it? The one word would just be spirit.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a spirit in a physical vessel, and spirit has a lot of meaning for me. So absolutely that.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I just got goosebumps from that. No, I love that so much. And look, we would love to have you come back next year. And you know, we can do an in-depth podcast and, you know, just talk more about it. But thank you again for being here, Ioanna. I truly adore what you're doing, and I think your story is going to inspire so many people as well.
I hope so. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. And for everyone who is watching this episode today, thank you so much for being here. If you have liked it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and put your comments below, and we'll reach out to you. Remember to live life to the fullest every single day. Love and light to you all.